Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon everyone. Good afternoon Prof. Warsono. Good afternoon Pak Widi and all my friends. Here I will continue from the first speaker, Mbak Lilis Sulistianti, which has explained about idioms. In this presentation, we will discuss about non-literal meaning, including idioms, metaphor, and metonymy. Just now, the first speaker, Mbak Lilis, has explained about idioms, and then for me, the second presenter, will discuss about metaphor and metonymy. Taken from Semantic Course Book, Unit 27. Okay, with me, Siti Mukarramah. Metaphor is the approach presented by George Lakoff and Mark Johnson, abbreviated as LJ, taken from the book Metaphors We Live By, University of Chicago Press. In this unit, we will examine some of LJ ideas in the following practices and exercises. For the first, let's see metaphor in general. Definition of metaphor. Metaphors are conceptual or mental operations reflected in human language that enable speakers to structure and construe abstract areas of knowledge and experience in more concrete experiential terms. Metaphors are figures of speech that directly refer to one thing by mentioning another, or metaphor is comparison between two things that are not the same and replace the word with another word. Metaphors are not real meaning. It is such variable or imaginary. Example of metaphor. My car is a lemon and Dr. Jones is a badger. We know from experience that lemons are sour and that badgers can be messy and raw in their work. This familiar knowledge helps us understand certain negative aspects of car ownership and medical practice. Through this method of equation, metaphors can help explain concepts and ideas by colorfully linking the abstract to the concrete. The subject is to be said to be another. Kinds of metaphor. There are three kinds. The first is structural metaphors, the second orientational metaphors, and the third ontological metaphors. Let's see number one. Structural metaphors are abstract metaphorical systems in which an entire complex mental concept is structured in terms of some other concept, usually more concrete. Structural metaphors are conventional metaphors in which concepts are expressed with other conceptual structures. In LJ metaphor theory, there are two conceptual domains, the source domain and target domain. Example, they take everything we said. Number two, my strategy against their argument was weak. Number three, our criticism of his claim was right on target. LJ suggests that such language provides evidence that we actually conceptualize argument in terms of var. English has structural metaphor. Argument is war. Comment. Let's see the comment. Notice that in expressing the metaphor in written terms, we state the abstract domain or argument first, followed by a form of the verb to be, and then the concrete domain or word with all parts in uppercase letters. English has the structural metaphor. Argument is war. Argument here is abstract domain, which comes first, and then is form of the verb which followed, and war is the concrete domain. Let's practice. Identify the structural metaphor from everyday English expressions below. Number 1, A. John and Mary have come a long way together. B. I think she will go far in life. The structural metaphor from everyday English expressions is life is a journey. Number 2, A. Stop wasting my time. B. She always spends too much time shopping. Okay, the structural metaphor from these expressions. Time is money. The next comment. More than one concrete source domain may be used to structure various aspects of more abstract target domain, if that domain is important enough in the conceptual system of the language. Let's practice. Identify the structural metaphor below. Number 1, A. He is the father of modern biology. B. That idea died of years ago. Okay, the structural metaphor. Ideas are people. Ideas, this is source domain that more than one or plural, and then people is target domain which plural or more than one. Number 2, A. That idea died on the vine. B. Linguistics is a field with many branches. The structural metaphor is ideas are plants. Ideas a source domain which is more than one or plural, and plants is target domain which is plural. Number 2 from kinds of metaphor is orientational metaphors. Give concept spatial orientation by associating an abstract knowledge area with some aspect of experiential knowledge grounded in how human beings understand their orientation in physical space, such as up versus down, front versus back, and etc. Let's see the example. I'm feeling up today. Number 2, that movie boosted my spirits. Number 3, her spirits rose at the news. Expressions such as the following example seem to relate the abstract notion of being happy with being located in a physical up position. LJ called this metaphor happy is up. Let's practice. Identify the structural metaphor below. Number 1, it's 8 o'clock, time to wake up. The structural metaphor is conscious is up. Number 2, John is at the peak of health. The structural metaphor is health is up. Number 3, Jane is on the top of the situation. The structural metaphor is having control or force is up. Number 4, the dean of the college occupies a lofty position in the university. The structural metaphor is high status is up. Number 5, Jack does higher quality work. The structural metaphor is good is up. Number 6, the teacher always sets higher standards. The structural metaphor is virtue is up. 7, the number of articles on semantics seem to keep going up. The structural metaphor is more is up. Comment. These examples of orientational metaphors reveal some interesting facts about the language. First, they show that the use of metaphorical language is systemic and not random or haphazard. In other words, the various metaphors are coherent with each other. Second, the systemic nature of the metaphors reflects the fact that they are rooted in a physical and cultural experience. Okay, number 3, kinds of metaphors, ontological metaphors. It helps structure our understanding of abstract concepts and experiences, such as events, activities, emotions, ideas, and etc. In terms of our experience with actual physical objects and substances in the real world. The term ontological is derived from the Greek root onto, the things which exist, logi, the science of. LJ used the metaphor inflation is entity to illustrate how ontological metaphors work. Example number 1, inflation is increasing every year. The ontological metaphors is identifying aspect. I'm sorry, this is the answer, not number 2. The real number 2 is here. The negative aspects of inflation far outweigh the positive ones. The ontological metaphor is identifying causes. Okay, comment. Let's see the first comment from ontological metaphors. The ontological metaphors examined so far have been identified by LG as entity and substance metaphors. Another kind of ontological metaphor treats abstractions as though they were physical containers of various kinds. Such metaphors are called container metaphors. Practice. Identify the relevant aspects of each ontological metaphor in each sentence below. Number 1, there were many runners in the race. The ontological metaphor is the race is construed as container object. Number 2, I'm sorry, this is number 2. John and Mary are in love. The ontological metaphor is the state of being in love is construed as container. Number 3, sorry, this is number 3. The girl fell into a deep depression. The ontological metaphor is, this is the answer for number 3. I'm sorry, so many typo. The depression is construed as container object. This is the answer for the girl fell into a deep depression. The depression is construed as container object. Example from the comment. There is another common type of ontological metaphor that allows us to input various kinds of human qualities to non-human entities. It is personification. Let's see the example. Number one, the theory explains everything you need to know about metaphor, literal speaking. The personification is a theory cannot explain anything. Number two, I think that life has cheated me out of any hope of happiness. The personification is only a person can. Similarly, only people can literally cheat someone. Okay, next, metonymy. Okay, metaphor finish and then metonymy. This is a non-literal meaning. Definition of metonymy. Metonymy is a kind of non-literal language in which one entity is used to refer to another entity that is associated with it in some way. Example, the White House refused to answer the question. The meaning of metonymy from this sentence is the White House is used to refer to the spokesperson who works there who actually refused to answer. Let's practice explain the metonymy in each sentence below. Number one, we enjoy watching Hitchcock more than Spielberg. The metonymy from the sentence is Hitchcock and Spielberg are used to represent the films they made. Number two, the Times asked a pertinent question at the news conference. The metonymy from the sentence is the Times. The Time is used to represent the reporter who works for the newspaper. Okay, comment. LG observed that there are in fact several different kinds of metonymy that are frequently found in everyday language. Okay, let's practice. Match each sentence with a kind of metonymy. Okay, number one, Watergate was an important scandal in American politics. The metonymy from this sentence is that the place for the event. This is kind of the metonymy. Number second, the rancher needs some more hands during run-up time. The second type from metonymy, the part for the whole. And the third type of metonymy, object used for user, for example, like the buses are on strike today. And number four, the place for the institution. For example, Hollywood keeps putting out mediocre movies. And the five from the type of metonymy, producer for product. The example of the sentence is the art collector bought an expensive Picasso. And then Hitler conquered Poland in just a few days. The metonymy, the type of metonymy is controller for controlled. And the army needs many new soldiers. This is type of metonymy, that institution for people responsible. And the last is just another pretty face. The metonymy, that the face for the person. Summary. This unit has examined several kinds of non-literal or figurative language and has investigated the extent to which it might be structured in some way. Many idiomatic expressions, such as my car is a lemon, probably originated as isolated metaphors which have become fixed or frozen over time. But the language is replete with a number of different kinds of metaphorical expressions that are more elaborately intrinsic in the culture and are more highly systematic in nature. We have found ample evidence in English of numerous structural metaphors, orientational metaphors, and ontological metaphors, which are by no means random, but highly structured and rule-governed. Finally, we have examined several different subtypes of metonymy in everyday language, and that it too is systematic in nature. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Good luck and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.